All right, folks, buckle up, because we're taking a ride straight back into the chaotic, explosive, world-shaping storm known as World War II. Picture this, it's 1939. The world's still shaky from the Great Depression. Everybody's trying to mind their own business, and suddenly boom, Hitler decides to roll into Poland like he owns the place. And trust me, that move hits the world like a slap in the face. Europe panics, America raises an eyebrow but stays on the sidelines, and within weeks, the whole globe is sliding toward the most destructive conflict humanity has ever seen. Now, let me paint this in American colors for you. The US at this point. We're sipping coffee, listening to jazz, building cars in Detroit, and keeping a cautious distance from Europe's mess. The memory of World War I is still fresh. Nobody wants to ship their sons to die on another continent again. President Roosevelt is walking that tightrope between we gotta help and we gotta stay out of this, but across the ocean, things are spiraling fast. Germany's blitzkrieg hits like lightning, literally, lightning war. Country after country folds like a cheap lawn chair. Meanwhile, over in the Pacific, Japan's cooking up its own imperial dreams. They're gobbling up territory in Asia, flexing military muscles, and pretty much daring anyone to stop them. America keeps sending warnings, slapping embargoes, trying the diplomatic "hey buddy, calm down" approach. But Japan, though, they're not listening. They have plans, big ones, and every move is pushing the Pacific closer to a showdown. Back in Europe, Britain stands tall, refusing to surrender even when they're being bombed night after night. You gotta give it to the Brits, they held their ground with tea in one hand and pure grit in the other. The Battle of Britain becomes the first real speed bump in Hitler's highway to domination. America watches, thinking, dang, that's rough, but still not ready to jump in. But behind the scenes, Roosevelt's lending, leasing, and basically sneaking weapons across the Atlantic like a friend passing you answers under the table. And then comes the moment that changes everything. December 7, 1941, a quiet Sunday morning in Hawaii. Sailors on Pearl Harbor waking up, grabbing breakfast, writing letters home. Planes buzz in the distance, no big deal, right? Training exercises happen all the time, except these planes aren't American. They're Japanese, and they're coming in hot, like hornets with a mission. Within minutes, the harbor erupts in smoke, fire, and chaos. Ships sink, lives are lost, and America wakes up fast. President Roosevelt goes to Congress the next day and drops one of the coldest, most iconic lines in US history, a date which will live in infamy. And let me tell you, America's attitude flips like a switch. Isolationism is dead, it's game on. The US declares war on Japan, and then surprise, surprise, Germany and Italy declare war on the US too. Suddenly, America's not just in the war, America's everywhere in the war. Factories across the country light up like never before. Detroit stops making cars and starts pumping out tanks, planes, and weapons by the thousands. Women step into factories. Rosie the Riveter becomes the national icon of strength, rolling up her sleeves like, "Move over, boys, we got this." Young men storm recruiting stations, lines stretching around blocks. The whole nation transforms into one giant war machine. Let's head to Europe first. American troops join the British and Canadians in North Africa. It's hot, it's sandy, and General Patton is charging through it all like a bulldozer with sunglasses. After North Africa, they move into Italy. Mussolini goes down, Italy switches sides, but Germany keeps fighting like a wildcat cornered in a barn. Every inch of Europe costs blood. Every hill, every village, every river crossing. And then comes D-Day, June 6, 1944. If World War II were a movie, this would be the scene where the music swells and the camera zooms out to show thousands of ships crowding the horizon. The Allies storm the beaches of Normandy with courage, fear, chaos, and pure determination. Bullets raining, waves crashing, soldiers running through hell. But by the end of that day, the Allies are in France. And Hitler's ticking clock has officially started counting down. While Europe burns toward liberation, the Pacific is its own beast entirely. The fight against Japan is island hopping, literally moving from island to island, each defended like a fortress. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Iwo Jima, Okinawa. Names that echo the blood, sweat, and sheer bravery of American Marines and soldiers who fought yard by yard, jungle by jungle. The Japanese fight with unwavering ferocity, Surrender isn't in their dictionary. Back in Europe, by spring 1945, the end is near. Soviet forces push from the east, the Americans and Allies push from the west, and Germany's crumbling fast. Hitler retreats into a bunker, and before long, he's gone. Berlin falls, the war in Europe is over. The world breathes half a sigh of relief, but only half because the Pacific fight still burns. Japan refuses to give up, even after losing island after island. Even after massive bombing raids on their cities, they stay defiant. US planners dread the idea of invading the Japanese mainland. The estimated casualties, unthinkably high. So President Truman makes a decision that still shakes the world today. In August 1945, two atomic bombs Hiroshima and Nagasaki change history in the blink of an eye. Cities vanish, the war ends, Japan surrenders. And just like that, after 6 years of chaos, destruction, courage, tragedy, and sacrifice, World War II is over. But the world that emerges, it's nothing like the one that entered. New superpowers rise, old empires fall. Technology rockets forward, borders shift. The United Nations is born, and America. America steps onto the global stage like a heavyweight champion, carrying both victory and responsibility. But let's not gloss over what it cost: over 70 million lives lost. Families shattered across continents, cities burned to rubble. Soldiers returned home with scars seen and unseen. The world learned painfully that hatred, unchecked power, and silence in the face of injustice can grow into monsters too big to ignore. Yet from that darkness rose countless stories of courage. Soldiers who charged into gunfire to save a friend. Nurses who treated the wounded under falling bombs. Civilians who hid strangers from enemies. Codebreakers who cracked secrets that saved thousands. Workers back home who built the engines of victory. That's the thing about war, it reveals the worst of humanity and the very best. Today, when we look back at World War II, we don't just see battles and borders. We see lessons, heavy ones, about unity, about freedom, about standing up when it matters most, and yeah, about the immense price of peace. It's a story that belongs not just to America, not just to Europe or Asia, but to the whole world. So here we are, decades later, telling this story again. Because it's not just history, it's a reminder. A reminder that ordinary people can rise to extraordinary heights. That choices matter, that silence can be dangerous. And that even in the darkest chapters, hope and courage can rewrite the ending.